Hi, you're watching WION. I'm Sana Khan. Let's get you all the big news stories we're tracking from South Asia and across the world. But first up, as always, a look at the headlines. Economic Survey of India suggests universal basic income to replace all subsidies, projects a 7.1% growth rate and a big reforms push. US President Donald Trump gives a jolt to Indian IT professionals, brings a bill in the House of Representatives to curtail work visa programs, including H-1B and L-1. IT company stocks fall up to 9%. The Supreme Court of India refuses to stay the new Jallikattu law passed by the Tamil Nadu Assembly, but slams the state government for not following the law and order during massive protests. India tells Pakistan to act against 2611 masterminds, says more action is needed than putting Hafiz Saeed under house arrest once again. And in sports, India and England go head-to-head in the T20 series decider in Bengaluru on Wednesday. The Indian test team for the test against Bangladesh sees no major surprises. All right, let's start with international updates. US President Donald Trump has sacked the acting Attorney General Sally Yates. President Trump relieved Yates of her duties and subsequently named Dana Boente to serve as the acting Attorney General until Senator Jeff Sessions is finally confirmed by the Senate. This development comes after Yates asked the Department of Justice not to enforce Trump's legal order on immigration and refugees. Yates had directed the Justice Department lawyers not to make legal arguments defending the president's order. Now, Donald Trump also replaced the acting director of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, Daniel Ragsdale, shortly after he fired Yates. Unlike the firing of Yates, Ragsdale's replacement came in with no explanation. Ragsdale was replaced by Thomas Homan, ICE's Executive Associate Director and of Removal Operations since 2013. And the US government will let close to 900 refugees into the country this week, despite the immigration ban, according to officials of US Homeland Security. These refugees were in transit and were already cleared for resettlement before the ban took effect. However, the nationalities of these refugees haven't been disclosed. The breather came in even as massive protests took place in many countries against Donald Trump's administration when he decided to ban immigrants from entering the US. And Muslim leaders filed a federal lawsuit against Donald Trump in Virginia over his new immigration order. They called it unprecedented that the U.S. government has preferred one religion over another. The lawsuit alleges that Trump's ban initiates mass expulsion of immigrant and non-immigrant Muslims based solely on their religious beliefs.
We filed a federal lawsuit in the Eastern
and our community is not alone to be concerned about his harmful rhetoric and now his dangerous policies. Millions of Americans are very, very concerned about the direction in which he's taking our country. Millions of people who love America, individuals and countries, are concerned and worried what this president is doing.
And with all the controversy over Donald Trump's immigration ban, as we told you a short while ago, the U.S. government, they're appointing Thomas D Hominis as the acting director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement. He replaces Daniel Ragsdale, who returns to his role as the ICE's deputy director. A statement from the Department of Homeland Security announced his appointment but gave no reason for the sudden change. Now, Britain, which is a close U.S. ally, has taken a different approach to President Donald Trump on immigration restrictions. Theresa May, Britain's Prime Minister, she said that an invitation to Donald Trump for the state visit still stands.
The United States is a close ally of the United Kingdom. We work together across many areas of mutual interest, and we have that special relationship between us. I have issued that informally issued that invitation for a state visit for President Trump here to the United Kingdom, and that invitation stands.
Moving on, after contacting the police to negotiate his surrender, the killer of Quebec has been arrested. Alexandre Bissonnet is a 27-year-old student who likes Garfield, the heavy metal band Megadeth, and hates immigrants, especially those who follow Islam. So who is this man responsible for the bloodbath at a Quebec mosque? Our senior international correspondent Padma Rao tells you more.
Canada grieved through the frosty night for the 6 victims of a terror attack by a gunman inside a mosque in Quebec City, the capital of Canada's province of the same name. A few hours later, they learned that the killer was not, as thought, an Islamic State radical incensed at Canada's moderate Muslims. He turned his weapons upon them, but he was a French-speaking white native and a regular student next door. Alexandre Bissonnet is a good pianist, a social media commentator, and known in the small town as a regular online troll. The 27-year-old also worked for a blood donation agency and lived on the top floor of an apartment block on the La Verdure Street, 1 kilometer away from the mosque, where he sprayed bullets upon devotees, killing 6 and injuring 8 others grievously. But how did a gangly young man who dressed unfashionably and belonged to a chess club become a killer? The answer may lie in Washington, D.C. and in distant France, with whom Quebec shares a language. Bissonnet's friends say that he was very impressed and taken in by the victory of Republican President Donald Trump and all the rhetoric that came with it. But there was another hero who may have provided greater inspiration, French extreme right-wing leader Marine Le Pen. The politician is a forerunner in France's imminent presidential poll and visited Quebec, and the die was cast. Much like in France, there is a large North African immigrant community in Quebec. Bissonnet was impressed by Le Pen's radical views, particularly on immigrants from Muslim countries, and used the social media to let everyone know just how much he agreed with her. Soon he was to let his gun speak too. But at the moving vigil that dozens of Quebecois attended in sub-zero temperatures, the citizens of the land famed for tolerance are making it clear that whether Islamist radicalism or white supremacy, they will not allow the seeds of hatred to be sown on Canadian soil. Padma Rao, Beyond.
With that, we're taking a very short break. More news and updates follow in just a bit. Stay tuned. You're watching WION. Iran test-fired a medium-range ballistic missile on Sunday, prompting the United Nations Security Council to call for urgent talks. A U.S. official on Monday confirmed that Tehran did test-fire that missile and exploded after about 600 miles. However, it's not clear if Iran had violated the UN resolution. As part of the 2015 Iranian nuclear deal, Tehran had agreed to curb its nuclear program in return for lifting of sanctions.
رزمایش موشکی اقتدار ولایت از چند روز گذشته در
And according to a UN report released earlier this month, 10,000 civilians have been killed in the conflict in Yemen over the past 2 years. There were several strikes under the Obama administration, and his successor, Donald Trump's armed forces, have just inflicted fresh casualties. According to Yemeni media reports, at least 10 of 30 fresh casualties in the first US military operation in Yemen under Donald Trump were women and children. In a statement, the Pentagon said it targeted and killed 14 members of Al-Qaeda in the air raid at dawn in Yemen's southern province of Al-Baida. The official statement makes no mention of civilian casualties, but some officials acknowledged privately to reporters that there may have been some. US President Donald Trump expressed his sadness at the death of a US commander, but made no mention of the thousands of civilians killed in the long and brutal conflict. And with just a couple of hours to go for the Indian budget to be unveiled for this year, there's a lot of anticipation. We take a look at some of the sectors in detail. With the 2016 budget, India surpassed Russia to become the 4th largest defence spender in the world. But the capital outlay was slashed by 8.5%. What does this mean for the Indian soldier? WION's correspondent Darvi Ved brings us this report.
India joined the military big boys club by becoming the fourth largest spender on defense last year. 2016 was also the first time since the mid-1980s that defense pensions were presented with the budget. After a year that saw army veterans take to the streets to demand one rank, one pension, a whopping $12 billion were budgeted for OROP and the 7th Pay Commission. All this did paint a rosy picture. However, for a country moving towards defense modernization, the capital outlay was slashed by 8.5%.
2016 was a testing year for the Indian Defence Forces. The Pathankot attack, the Uri attack and the Nagrota attack, followed by frequent cross-border shelling and the so-called surgical strikes, got India to the brink of conflict with Pakistan and questioned India's war preparedness. On the other hand, soldiers posted a string of videos on social media fueling a debate on whether there's a possible failure in providing basic amenities to the soldiers. Prime Minister Modi is making ambitious plans to modernize the Indian Defence Forces. But all this boils down to one single question: is India spending enough on its soldiers?
A 2015 Controller and Auditor General report revealed that India was facing a severe shortage of ammunition, having only enough to last 20 days of a full-scale war. Some varieties of ammunition with the army, the report added, would barely last 10 days of conflict. There is also a shortage of 47% in holding of BMP vehicles, the mainstay of mechanized infantry of the 1.8 million strong Indian Army. In addition, there is an acute shortage of protective gear for soldiers. In October 2009, the Army authorized over 353,000 bulletproof jackets. Under half of those were to come in the 11th plan between 2007 to 2012, with the remaining to be in during the 12th five-year plan. But the reality is that no new jackets were provided till March 2016. According to reports, the Army needs an additional 180,000 jackets. The orders for these are yet to be placed. The Indian Air Force and the aviation units of the Army also have obsolete equipment.
There is a huge shortage of bulletproof vests. The vests themselves that are held are bulky and do not provide protection all over the body. For example, they cover the front and the back, but not the sides, not the neck. So there are major challenges over there which need to be rectified.
The truth is that capital budget is mainly used for procurement of weapons. But more than half of that goes towards annual payments due for military equipment already bought.
A budget is generally based on a wish list. And the wish list must start from the man behind the gun, because it is ultimately the man behind the gun who is going to produce the results.
Prime Minister Modi has time and again stressed on defense modernization. With the new plan, he wants to come up with what is being dubbed as a shoot-to-kill army.
It will be a great day if the Indian Armed Forces can be transformed from a defensive strategic approach to an offensive strategic approach, but it will cost a lot.
In November 2016, India began exploring the global markets for 185,000 modern assault rifles, along with body armors and helmets. However, as the defense forces continue to grapple with pending orders and the soldiers make do with the shortage of weapons and protective gear, it remains to be seen how capital expenditure pans out this year. In New Delhi, Dharvi Ved, WION.
Moving on now, residents of polluted cities like Delhi often stare at the skies in vain to spot the moon or a comet. But citizens of Kuwait, descendants of Bedouins or nomads, have found a way to fulfill their yearning for shifting sands and starlit skies. Luxury desert camps. Our senior international correspondent Padma Rao has the details.
It's what their ancestors, the Bedouin or Bedu of lore and legend, used to do, braving sandstorms and bitterly cold nights and pitching tents wherever their wandering took them. That is the want of all nomadic tribes. Citizens of the oil-rich Gulf state of Kuwait are now being drawn back to those legendary vistas again, in places like Al Julayya, about 70 kilometers away from the capital Kuwait city. But at Shimari, one of the many desert camps, a tent comes with flat-screen TV, internet, bathrooms and even running water.
موجود تلفزيون عندنا، موجود ألعاب، موجود الدوات هذه المنقل، عندنا شاي والقهوة، عندنا يعني الكهرباء موجودة.
Alfresco life is not for all seasons of the year though, especially not in Kuwait's scorching summer when temperatures can go up to 50 degrees Celsius. But once the big heat subsides, Al Julaya bustles with life on weekends, holidays and school breaks, even as young quad bikers kick up clouds of dust racing in the sands.
الشتاء والربيع من أجمل الفصول لأنه الجميع هنا الجميع لهم المتنفس الوحيد اللي هو المخيمات.
The call of the desert in a region where only Bedouins roamed till the discovery of oil in the 30s is almost genetic. But the rise in fortunes of the Kuwaitis was so rapid after that discovery that slumming it out, no matter how thrilling, is inconceivable without a bit of labeling and luxury. And for well over $300 a night, a mere trifle for many Kuwaitis.
صارت الاكسسوارات هذه الحين أهم من الخيم، زائد في خيم يعني صار من داخل سيراميك، تلبس خيم سيراميك، الأرضية تسوى سيراميك، كرامة برا حمام أمريكي فرنجي وعربي، المطبخ مع خزاين مع فرن، صار هذا كله مجهز كأنك أنت في البيت ولكن خارج البيت.
But unlike in ancient times when squabbles were settled with honor and tradition and illnesses treated by local medicines, modern times call for modern solutions. Padma Rao, Beyond.
Well, with that, it's a wrap in this edition of our bulletin. But as we head into a break, we leave you with the Bang Mumbai's battling 3-2 win over Delhi Wave Riders in the Hockey India League. Mumbai extending their lead in the league. Take a look.